And welcome in, guys, to King Josiah TV. Welcome back, guys, to the show. This is the live cast of episode 25, guys. But before we get started, guys, this channel was created to influence the kingdom of Jesus Christ in your world. I am your host, Josiah. And before we get started, guys, I need you to do me a huge favor. If you're listening on YouTube, or go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But if you're listening audibly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button for me, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into this episode.
Watch giants fall like Goliath. David, I dance. This ain't no tick-tock. God told me that my steps was ordered. Walking in flip-flops. Chris Rock, how they laughed at me.
Pretty much just came out and said, I don't know how new it is or old it is. It may be like an old segment. But he came out and pretty much said, was skeptical about the Bible and about the manuscripts and how things can they be really credible? Are these things that were just made up over the course of time? And Frank Turek actually reviewed a segment of one of his podcasts, and I really like the point that Frank Turek brought up. Frank Turek is another apologist, guys. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. One minute, guys. Appreciate everybody sticking along with me today with some of these technical difficulties we have, but we pushing through, and I appreciate all of y'all for sticking along with me, for real. Okay, I got the video here. Okay.
I think that what the Bible is I think at one point in time, there was a very sophisticated society that got wiped out by some sort of a massive natural disaster. And then over time, they told the stories that they had learned since they stopped writing things down. They probably had to live like barbarians for thousands of years, but they always had the stories. It's like, this is like a map of civilization.
Right.
It's just so old, and it's been translated so many times from ancient Hebrew and Aramaic and all these different languages down to Greek and Latin and English. Finally, it's like, there's so much, like, what was really said? What was really going on? Because a lot of it seems too on the money. Like, if we wanted to try to put this through some sort of a logical filter or figure out, like, is someone really trying to warn?
But Joe, that's what makes the Bible inerrant. That's what makes the Bible legitimate, is because it standed the test of time, because it's gone across many different regions and languages, and is still carrying on. And that's how it's been verifiable.
Or us.
You know, Joe is absolutely right. The Bible is on the money. In fact, we don't just read the Bible reads us. I do want to respond to one thing he mentioned, though, about the translating. You know, I get this question a lot on a college campus, and a lot of people think the Bible's been translated through all these languages ultimately to English. That's not really how it happened.
Guys, really listen to how Frank breaks this down. I think a lot of people don't have this clear understanding on how the scriptures were translated from the Greek, Hebrew, and the Aramaic. So this is, I love the way that he breaks this down.
And let's just take the New Testament, for example. In the New Testament, the people that either witnessed Jesus or knew eyewitnesses wrote down what Jesus said and did. And then other people later copied these into Greek. They were originally written in Greek. They were further translated into other languages, but also into Greek. And we take almost 6,000 handwritten Greek manuscripts over the centuries. When we compare those Greek manuscripts, we can reconstruct the original down to 99% accuracy. And we have all these other languages too.
And that's crazy, guys. 99% accuracy. And I'm going to read some other stuff here in a second that, you know, we talk about Cape Coron, where they found in those clay pots, they found over majority of the Old and the New Testament, and it was complete matches, guys. 99% accuracy is crazy. The Bible has been around for well over 2,000 years, well over. That's just barely trying to graze the surface of the Old Testament, not even. So, guys, there's so much proof in the Bible. There's so much proof in there that, again, the same thing we were talking about Billy Carson earlier, you have to have a heart issue, not an intellectual issue, because you can very easily intellectually and historically prove your faith and prove the Bible is true.
That help us know what the original said, in addition to the early church fathers. So there's really no debate over whether or not we have the original New Testament documents. We do. Now we take those Greek and we put them right into English or Russian or Chinese or German. We don't go through all these other languages to get to ultimately English or these other languages. We go straight from the Greek, straight from the Hebrew in the Old Testament, the Aramaic in the Old Testament, right into English.
That's saying something. If we're going right over from one to the other, pretty much. So it's not like we're transcribing it through one language to another language to another language. No, it's going straight from the Greek or the Hebrew or the Aramaic, and they're just taking it straight from that into that other language, not necessarily constantly recycling it through other languages to get to a particular one. It's coming straight from the manuscripts, guys. So I just want to give you guys some more of the facts, just some other facts on the Bible that just further prove your faith and further prove that the Bible is true and real, guys, because I've done my research on this as well. The Bible you have to keep in mind that the Bible is thought inspired. It's not pen inspired. Therefore, its words do not have to be repeated verbatim by other writers. Sometimes it doesn't even have to have the same pen writer, but the thought remains the same. Just like from the Old and the New Testament, you have over 40 different authors in there, and they all have the same thought. It's telling the same story. They have the same narrative. The narrative doesn't change. These people that were never in the same room, that were never in the same space, but yet they have the same idea, and they're telling the same story. Just because a portion of the text is missing doesn't mean manipulation has taken place. Present tense statement versus future. The Bible always speaks in context. That's why I always tell people you have to know context. You have to know who they were talking to, the words meaning. So you have to break all that down. You just can't sometimes take the Bible just as face value of the verse that you're reading. Some more historical facts. The Cape Qumran that I was talking to you guys is proof that the Bible is credible. Diggers found the Dead Sea Scrolls, a collection of them of 981 texts discovered in between 1946 and 1956. Most of these texts were written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, the same ones that the King James Version is translated from today. All the Bible you read today has all those translations. They were amazed to find the accuracies of the text from today, just as Frank said, 99% accuracy of the word of the world of God will stand for forever. There was an accurate way to translate the text called the Textus Receptus. In 1956, translation base shows that there was accurate proof of the Bible. New Testament into English by William Tyndale. The King James Version was originally printed in Greek. So, guys, just wanted to give you some little head knowledge, no geek knowledge on the Bible, guys. There, so when somebody comes up to you and someone says things, there's so much that you can. I mean, guys, you can find all this stuff online. You can look it up. There's so many videos. I mean, there's so much that we have tangible at our fingertips now that my parents or people before us never had the ability to look all these things up, never had the ability to view this stuff just from the internet. You ain't even got to go to your library. You ain't got to go across the world. You don't got to, go to Egypt and, all these places to be able to cite these things and to learn these things. You can learn it all via online. Get out of here, guys. It's getting a little late, but thank you guys again for listening to King Josiah TV podcast. This is episode 25, guys. I will be back next week with you again. Before I get out of here, guys, I ain't gonna forget, if you're listening live on YouTube, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. If you hadn't hit the like button, why haven't you? That helps my channel out. That helps us grow. That helps us continue to push this content out to you weekly and daily. If you're listening audibly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'll see you next week.
But my salvation on me like it's a helmet. The way you to sin is death for send you to hell quick. Wanted to be all about me, God, I was selfish. I was rebellious.